Hello, my name is Lovro Miklaužić. I'm here in front of Kul IN Wine Academy. I'm an oenologist and a sommelier. I will present you benefits of decanting a good red wine. Also, what we're going to discuss today is using a proper glass for a certain red wine style. To start with, I'm going to show you two different styles of decanting. Okay, first thing we're going to need is a corkscrew opener, just a regular waiter's friend, and a source of light. Since we are outside and the wind is blowing, I'm just going to use my regular good old cell phone and a source of light. Basically, what we need is a decanter or any glass made vessel or a pitcher. First, to present the proper opening of the bottle is you should not be touching the neck of the bottle too much. It's like touching someone's fork or knife. So cut beneath the second ridge just in case archiving of wine went bad and there's debris or moldy stuff underneath the foil cap. You should go underneath the second edge. It's nicer and neater to cut it under the first edge, but you should always go under the second edge and peel the foil as much as possible. Some sommelier courses recommend to peel the whole foil, but then you lose the purpose of bottle design, so it doesn't look as nice. Okay, next thing you need to do, aim for the middle, so you would avoid cork breakage, and stick in the spiral, the worm. So you go almost all the way through, then you stop, pull the cork just half of inch out. You can go a little bit deeper if you know the cork is bad, or just stop here and continue on pulling the cork out. When you're close to opening the bottle, just stop for a second and tilt the cork on one side or the other. You should not make a loud pop sound. So you can smell the cork just for the purpose of tradition, but there's no use of smelling it. Okay, to continue on, we need to clean the bottle throat as much as possible if there's any cork debris left. Now for decanting. So there's two ways of decanting. We can decant on the second wall to air it as much as possible. Like in case of this wine, it's Plavac Mali, vintage 2016, so it needs to be aired as much as possible. But if you have a really old wine that's been sitting in a bottle for a decade, you should decant on the first wall and not air it too much, just getting rid of sediments. So I'll just start presenting the first thing we mentioned, so it's decanting on the second wall and airing the wine as much as possible. So the wine is passing through the decanter and airing as much as possible. For old wines, you should decant on the first wall without too much impact of oxygen. So now my goal is to look through the bottle and find the source of light to see if there's any sediments that we need to get rid of. It's gonna look like a thin line of smoke in the end that's gonna come near the bottleneck. In this case, we don't have any debris in the wine, but I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of examples with a lot of sediments. Usually you end up with around 5% of the wine in the bottle and everything else is in the decanter. Okay, to continue on, using a proper wine glass. It's really important to understand the style of wine you have in front of you. So this wine we're using today is Dingac, which means like Grand Cru Plavac Mali terroir in Croatia. It would be vintage 2016, alcohol is probably around 15%, so it's 14.5. Producer is Nikolica, and as soon as we see Dingac, it means it's gonna be really kinky, just what the sommeliers like. So a lot of local terroiric aromas. I usually choose this wine for a really representative experience for people who've never tried Dingac before. So what we have today are three different glasses that could potentially be used for a red wine. We have like a normal unisex glass which could be used for let's say a white wine, an oak-aged white wine, or a red wine. We also have this style of wine with a wider, this style of glass with a wider opening that's usually used for Barolo wines and wines which have high percentage of alcohol. And we just have a regular balloon shaped red wine glass which is used for many different styles of wine. So our goal today is gonna be to see how much difference do we have in quality or just aromatic profiles when using a different style of glass for one style of wine. So for a purpose of decanting, usually you should decant in a restaurant in front of guests, but wines that are big, that have really a strong structure, need at least 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 to 4 hours to open up. So in theory, higher the quality of the wine, longer time you need to wait after decanting for the wine to open. If you don't wait long enough, wine just seems to be closed and the aromatic profile is just not quite there. So sometimes people have presumptions that some wines are really low in quality, but in the end it's just not enough time for this wine to breathe out, especially with variety we have today. So really strong tannic structure. What else should be mentioned is the decanter. You should buy the decanter that's the easiest to clean. So if you don't have a decanter, you can just use a water pitcher or anything that's cleaned with hot water or preferably steam, and not using heavy detergents so you would mess up the aroma of wine you're gonna decant. So I'm just gonna pour the wine into glasses for now. We won't wait for these 2 ideal hours to see the difference in the aromatic profile. Okay, you should always carry a cloth with you because everything seems to drool and drip, so not to get your tablecloth dirty. So I'm just gonna put a similar amount of wine into each glass. And try to smell out the difference. Okay, I'm just gonna switch these 2 right away because this one has a wider opening, so idea is gonna let out the excessive alcohol if the wine has it. So I'm just gonna smell the fruit or secondary or tertiary aroma possible. Okay, let's start with the white wine glass or unisex glass, and as a lot of people like to call it. So I'm just gonna swirl it for a while to check out the density. Density of the wine can be shown on the glass, but it doesn't mean that taste-wise you're gonna feel it, because if the wine is not balanced, if it's not harmonious, density of just density for itself of the liquid or viscosity will not make too much effect. So I'm just gonna taste it if you don't mind. Okay, surprisingly the aromas are quite open. A lot of overripe fruit and jam, and some kinky animal notes. Okay, I'm just not gonna try it yet. I'm only gonna do the aromatic profiles. Okay, same style of glass, bigger body, bigger opening. I had nothing against the first glass, but I hope to see some difference in the second one. Okay, we completely lost the animal, the gamey smell, as it usually is attributed in red wines. And now we're getting way more spices, way more oak, way more pleasant aromas. And for the third one, which should be our choice of today's day, today's wine. Interestingly, it opened the wine too much. So although these wines do look alike, this one, typically called the Barolo glass, has an opening that's a little bit too wide. So a lot of aroma is escaping. You should always use more glasses when trying the wine for the first time, just to see what style of the wine it is. But for today, I'm just gonna use my favorite, classical red wine, also called balloon glass in Croatia. It's always such a beautiful wine. especially when you drink it outside. This taste of soil, even some people say like salted sardines, that's like a typical plavac mali note, gives a really distinctive taste and aroma profile in outside conditions. It just overwhelms the wind, it overwhelms the flower smell that surrounds me, and you lose the animally or gamey aromas. Cheers to that. Excellent. Would you like to try some?